Jungkook was now standing outside the restaurant. He didn't leave from there. Inside the restaurant, the moment one saw him, she didn't stay even for a second. She immediately ran out from there. On the other hand, Jungkook had never expected to see her like that. He had always thought she had hanging out with her friends, going shopping, living comfortably, but seeing her walking like that tightened his chest. He couldn't believe what he just seen. So cancelling the meeting, Jungkook stood outside the restaurant, leaning against his car, waiting for her to come out. After almost 2 hours, when finally stepped out of the restaurant, her heart started beating fast. Swallowing hard, she slowly looked around, hoping desperately that Jungkook wouldn't be there. He wouldn't be right. Seeing no one, she let out a sigh of relief. Then she immediately walked towards near the bus stop and stepped onto the bus. But standing on the other side, Jungkook saw everything. How she ran towards the bus, how she kept looking around, hoping he wouldn't be there. He watched her silently, his deep eyes studying her, every moment, every reaction. After watching her retreating figure for some few moments, Jungkook quietly turned towards his car, got inside and drove back to home. Jungkook stood on the balcony, staring at the city light scratching endlessly before him. But he wasn't really looking at them. His mind kept drifting back to what he had seen earlier. Wine, quietly working at the small restaurant, her hands trembling, slightly as she served the customers. He hadn't expected that, not in million years. All this time he thought she married him for his money, for the life he could give her, nothing more. And now, seeing her like this, working so hard for so little, guilt surged through him, tightening his chest in a way he hadn't felt before. He had never been like this before, he never was, but something had made him this way, cold, heartless. Jungkook had been in a relationship for almost 2 years with a girl he loved more than anything. He had thought she was the one for his life. He gave her everything she wanted. Whenever she wanted to go shopping, he took her. Whenever she wanted something, even it was expensive, he never hesitated. He fulfilled every single wish she had. He made all her wishes come true. For a while, everything was perfect. Both of them were happy. Until one day, when he had planned everything to propose her, ring just the way she wanted, flowers, everything, and then, the moment he got inside her house, his heart shattered into a million pieces. He saw her girlfriend cheating on him with his best friend. He couldn't believe it. He just couldn't. And even when he comforted her, trying to understand, she just said she had only been with him for his money. She never loved him. She had always loved his best friend. And she had only been with Jungkook because of his wealth and how he fulfilled her every expensive desire. From that day, he built a wall around his heart. It wasn't that he hadn't moved on from her. He had. He even hated her now. Even if she come back into his life, he wouldn't feel the same. He despised her, disgusted by her. But the trust that had been broken could never be repaired. But now, looking at Wine working that part-time job just to earn a little money for herself, his chest tightened, and now he realized how wrong he had been. He realized that not every girl was like her, at least not his wife. She wasn't after his money. She was different. Everything he had thought about her had been wrong, and that guilt now felt like a weight tightening. Jungkook was now standing outside Wan's door. He hadn't known whether she should go or not. After gathering a little courage, he quietly turned the doorknob and stepped inside. The sight that greeted him made his chest tighten. She was sleeping peacefully. Since coming home, she hadn't waited for him. She hadn't even stayed in the living room. She had gone straight to her bedroom and hadn't come out once, as if she were purposely avoiding him. She didn't want to meet him. Jungkook slowly walked towards the bed. Quietly he stood in front of her, watching her steady breathing and the soft rhythm of her heartbeat. Then gently he kneeled down. His eyes softened as he stared at her face. He noticed the slight paleness, the tiredness, the exhaustion. He had never seen her like this before. Today, for the first time, he truly saw her like this. He saw her how much she had been pushing herself, and somewhere deep inside his chest, it made his heart ache. Without realizing it, his eyes welled up with unshed tears as he remembered the harsh word he had said to her. Slowly, he raised his hand and tugged some of the strand of her hair behind her ear, letting his finger linger as he looked fully at her face. In a low, husky voice, he even muttered, "Why did you need this part-time job? What could possibly bring you to this?" He continued staring at her face, soft eyes fixed on every detail. He didn't know how long he remained there, lost in the quiet of the moment. After all like felt eternity, he slowly stood up as he began to leave. But he suddenly stopped. His gaze fell on the table, where a small piece of paper had fallen out from her back. Curiosity and concern mingled as he stepped towards it. Pick it up. His eyes scanned the words. A notice letter, clearly stating that she had to pay her tuition fees by the end of the month. Jungkook froze. He looked at her, then back at the paper. His heart began to race. Pay the fees? He whispered to himself. In a deep, almost shuddering voice, he asked, "Why didn't she tell me about this?" His gaze returned to her, soft but filled with hurt and worry. Is this is this why she had been doing this part-time job? Just to pay her fees? His chest tightened as realization hit him. She was working so hard, struggling just to cover her fees, yet she hadn't come to him for help. Guilt clawed at him from inside, sharp, relentless. His hands trembled as he held the paper, the weight of it pressed into him. The next morning, one softly knocked on the door, then stepped inside. The accounts officer looked up and saw her. One spoke quietly, almost hesitantly. "May I come in, ma'am?" The accounts officer immediately stood up from her seat. One froze for a moment, a flicker of surprise across her face at how welcoming the woman was. Slowly, she walked towards the desk, keeping her gaze downwards. Her face was nervous. She didn't know how to start. She had come here to request some extra time to pay her tuition fees, because she still couldn't manage them. "Actually, I come here to ask you," she began, voice barely above a whisper. The accounts officer cut her off immediately. "Why are you standing here? Sit down." One frowned, confused, shaking her head slightly. "No, ma'am, I'm fine," she said, her voice almost shuddering. She tried again, her voice trembling. "Actually, I came here to ask some more time. I mean," she fluttered, unable to find the right words. The officer raised an eyebrow. "Ask for time? For what?" One looked down, swallowing the lump of the thought. "To pay my fees. I actually can't." The officer immediately interrupted her. "But your tuition fees have already been paid." One's head shot up, her eyes wide with shock. What? How? She asked, her voice trembling. The officer smiled gently. Your husband, Mr. June, has already paid them for the entire year. Wan's heart sank. Jungkook had already paid? But how did he know? She didn't want him. She didn't want him to pay her fees, even when she had worked so hard to manage her fees on her own. The account officer added, you told me earlier that you are Mr. June's wife. I didn't know about this before. Wan still zoning out, her mind a mess. She bit her lower lip, unsure what to do. Why had Jungkook paid her fees? How did he even know? Finally looked up and asked softly, are you sure, ma'am, that he really paid it? I mean, the officer cut her in immediately. Yes, I just received your payment. It come from Jungkook, your guardian, your husband. So there is no mistake. Wan looked down again, slowly nodded. She wasn't sure what to do now, but one thing she was certain, she couldn't accept money from him. She bowed her head slightly and whispered, oh, okay, thank you, ma'am. Without another word, she turned and left the office, her heart heavy, her thought racing. 5 days later, Wan was standing in front of Jungkook's bedroom door. Her hands were tightly clutching an envelope. It was her salary, her monthly salary that she had just received. In these 5 days, she had pushed herself beyond exhaustion at her part-time job, working overtime just so she could ask her manager for her salary earlier than usual. And today, she finally got it. Now she was standing outside Jungkook's bedroom, wanting to give her the salary to him because he had already paid her tuition fees. She wanted to pay him back with her own money. She softly knocked on the door. From the other side, a cold, deep voice came. Come in. Wine inhaled deeply, then slowly turned the doorknob and stepped inside. Jungkook was sitting on the couch, his laptop resting securely on his lap, his eyes focused on the screen as he worked. But the moment he sensed her presence, he looked up and froze when he saw her standing there. Something softened in his eyes instantly, a quiet flutter in his gaze that even he didn't recognize. From the past few days, something about her had been changing him, a feeling he couldn't name, a pull he didn't understand. Without thinking, he set the laptop aside and stood up. One, come inside. His voice was deep but not cold this time. She lowered her gaze immediately, her finger tightening around the envelope as she walked towards him with a slow, careful step. Do you need something? He asked softly. One finally looked up at him. She was still nervous. The last time she had come to this room, it hadn't ended well. Shallowing her, she extended the envelope towards him with trembling hands. This, this is my salary, she said softly. Jungkook frowned, confused. She spoke again, her voice shaky but firm. You paid my fees, all of it, for the whole year, and you didn't even tell me. Her fingers tightened once more before she continued, forcing the strength into her words. This is my salary for this month. I know it's not much, but I promise, month by month, I'll pay you back. Her voice carried determination, quite unyielding. Jungkook's heart clenched painfully at her words. It felt like all this time he had believed she had married him for his money, that she only wanted a luxury life, but here she was working herself exhaustion, holding her hard-earned salary. with the trembling hands just to repay him, and that realization hurt him more than he ever expected. He felt every single regret in his life crashing down on him at once. His voice dropped, low and deep. Am I not your guardian? One phone, uncertain. Jungkook's gaze was steady, unwavering as he repeated, firmer this time. When I'm your husband, and you are a student. It's my responsibility to pay your tuition fees, not yours. He paused, his thought tightened, a hint of frustration. And I have to ask, why didn't you tell me earlier that we have to pay the tuition fees? Wine looked down, unsure to what to say. Her lips trembled, as after a long silence he finally whispered, I don't want to be a burden in your life. You already have so much stress in this marriage. I don't want to be one more for you. Jungkook's heart hammered in his chest. He had never, not once, thought of her as a burden. Yes, he hadn't wanted this marriage at first. He hadn't been ready. But she had never been a burden. He had willingly taken responsibility of her life for her well-being. Stepping closer, his gaze fixed on her. His dark eyes softened, but the intensity didn't fade. Once doe-like eyes widened, confused. Instinctively she stepped back, but he was relentless, moving closer until he towered over her small frame. His voice dropped lower, husky, commanding, sending a shiver run down her spine. I don't need that money. I'm your guardian, so I will pay your tuition fees, not you. And then, pulling back from the intensity of the moment, he casually sat down on the couch, picked up his laptop, and returned to his work, as if nothing had happened. On the other hand, Wine stood frozen, stunned, her heart racing uncontrollably. She didn't understand what had just happened. Swallowing hard, she tried to regain control. But still, I can pay my tuition fees. I can't take money from you. With that, she placed the envelope on the table, then turned and hurried out of the room without another word. Jungkook's gaze followed her retreating figure, a rush of guilt and regret washing over him. Then his eyes fell on the envelope she had left behind. With a slow sigh, he muttered under his breath, I know I was wrong. I know I hurt you, but I promise I'll fix everything. Jungkook sat in his office, buried in paperwork, his posture rigid and commanding. His sharp eyes moved across the documents with a cold focus. The room was silent until the room door opened softly. His secretary stepped inside, walking towards the desk before bowing respectfully. Did you call me, sir? Jungkook slowly lifted his gaze. His eyes were deep, cold, piercing enough to make anyone uneasy. He gave a slight nod. Yes, leaning back slightly in his chair, he spoke in a low, controlled voice. Do you remember Mr. Lin's proposal? The internship program for hiring a few unexperienced candidates. The secretary frowned slightly, then nodded. Yes, sir, but you rejected that idea. You said this company hires experienced employees, not interns. Jungkook's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. He nodded once. Tell Mr. Lin to execute that plan, he said calmly. Prepare the file and bring it to me. The secretary's eyes widened in shock. This was unexpected. After a brief pause, he bowed his head again. Okay, sir, I'll inform Mr. Lin immediately. Jungkook had already turned his attention back to the papers. Without looking up, he spoke again, his voice firm and dismissive. "You may leave now." The secretary nodded quickly, bowed once more, and left the office, the heavy door closing behind him, leaving Jungkook alone with his thoughts. It was already night. Hwan was inside the restaurant, doing the same part-time job she had all did every evening. The dinner rush was heavy, the light was too bright, noise overwhelming. For the past few days she had been pushing herself far beyond her limits, doing overtime, skipping proper meals, barely sleeping. She worked recklessly. Sometimes head spun, sometimes her vision blurred, sometimes her leg felt too weak to carry. But she ignored it all. She didn't think of it. She couldn't afford to. That's when the manager's sharp voice cut through the noise. "Can't can't you hear what I'm saying?" One froze, looked towards him, startled. He glared at her, continued. "Didn't you hear me telling you to take the order from table number 2? Or do you completely stop listening now?" Wang quickly nodded, her voice trembling. I didn't hear." But the manager cut her off before she could finish. "Just because I gave you salary early, you started doing your job clumsily. Am I right?" She lowered her head. The manager scoffed. "Go, take that order and serve the food to table number 6 too. And hurry." "Why not immediately?" "I'll serve," she whispered, so softly it was almost inaudible. She turned and picked up the tray, striking the plate carefully in her trembling hands. As she started walking towards the table, her head suddenly spun. The world around her blurred, her vision darkened at the edges. She tried to steady herself, but her hands began shaking. The next moment, the plate slipped from her hands, shuddered across the floor. The sound, loud and sharp, echoing through the restaurant. Everyone turned. The manager rushed towards her. One froze, trembling even harder now. As she stared at the broken place, shuddered, her chest tightened. She already knew what was coming. "You useless girl," the manager snapped. "Again you did the same thing again." His voice dangerously cold. "Do you have any idea how much cause you are causing me?" One's eyes welled up with tears. She looked towards him desperately. I don't know what happened," she said weakly. "Please forgive me. I promise it won't happen again. Please." The manager stepped closer, towering over her. "Do you think I believe you? You said the same thing last time. I gave you another chance. Even I gave you your salary in advance when you begged for it." He laughed bitterly. "And this is how you repay me, by continuously causing me losses." While looked up at him with pleading eyes, tears slipping down her cheek. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "Please." The manager cut her off sharply. "Do you think I'll keep tolerating like you?" But suddenly a deep husky voice cut through the restaurant. "What do you think you are calling her?" One froze where she stood. Slowly trembling, she turned towards the voice. The manager did the same, and the moment his eyes landed on the man standing near the entrance, all the colors drained from his face. Jungkook. He stood all tall, hands sliding calmly into his pockets. His dark eyes were cold, piercing straight through the manager as he stepped forward with a quiet confidence. The air in the restaurant turned heavy. The manager felt a shiver run down his spine. His thought went die as he stammered, Mr. Jeon, you? Jungkook didn't let him finish. I ask you something, he said calmly, his voice low. How dare you to call her useless? Why stared at Jungkook, her eyes wide, her breath caught in her chest. Shock. Confusion. Everything collided at once. The manager swallowed hard. I am sorry if I inconvenience you, Mr. June, he said hurriedly. My employee, she's not your employee anymore. Jungkook's word cut through the air. The manager frowned in disbelief. So did Wine. Jungkook's gaze never wavered as he continued coldly. If you don't know, then let me enlighten you. He turned sadly. His eyes flickered towards Wine for a brief moment before turning to the manager. She's my wife, June Wine. The manager's mouth fell open. What? Wine's eyes widened in pure shock. Her head shook instinctively as if refusing to accept what he just heard. Her lips parted, wanting to say something but anything. But before she could say, Jungkook looked at her and said coldly, and from today onwards, she won't work under some useless like you anymore. His voice turned even deeper as he addressed the manager, sending another shiver down the man's spine. One snapped out of her shock and immediately grabbed Jungkook's sleeve, her fingers trembling. Please don't do this, she whispered desperately. I. Jungkook turned towards her, his expression unreadable. Gently, firmly, he took her hand in his. Let's go. One shook her head instantly. She didn't want to lose this job. She looked back at the manager, who still stood frozen, not to dare to say a single word to Jungkook. As soon as they stepped out of the restaurant, Wan appropriately stopped Jungkook. She pulled her hand away from his grip, turned to face him. Why did you do that? She sobbed. Her voice cracked, tears flowed, her eyes spilling freely down her cheek as dizziness swirled in her head. She could barely steady herself. Seeing her cry like this made something itch in Jungkook's chest. He stepped closer, his voice deep but resent. Because I won't let you work here anymore, he said firmly. Why? She sobbed weakly. Why? Her shoulders shook as she said, You know I don't have anything else. This job is the all I have. Then why? Why did you do this to me? She closed her eyes, words slipping out without control. Now he will never let me work there again, she whispered brokenly. I lost it. I lost everything. Her broken voice died in Jungkook's chest even more. He reached out, gently cuffed her cheek, wiping her tears with his thumb. Wan, calm down, he mumbled. Let's go home. She shook her head immediately. No, she whispered desperately. I want to talk to the manager again. I can't lose this job. I can't. Her voice trailed off. The next morning, the soft sunlight fluttered through the curtain. Jungkook slowly opened his eyes. The first thing he saw Wan. She was sleeping peacefully in his arms. Her head rested against his bicep. Her soft breath warmed. Last night, after she fainted, he had brought her home, carried her straight to his bedroom, because he knows, in that condition, he couldn't leave her alone in her room. He wouldn't. He looked at her for a few moments, then he shifted slightly. Wine instinctively moved closer, snuggling into his chest as if searching for warmth. Her small hand clutched the fabric of his shirt near his waist. Jungkook froze for a moment. His heart started to pounding uncontrollably. Still half asleep, she mumbled softly, her voice barely a whisper. Please, don't leave me. Please. Something cracked inside him. Without thinking, Jungkook pulled her closer by the waist. One hand rested protectively on her back, slowly caressing her waist, while the other. I'm right here, he whispered in a deep, mourning, husky voice. I'm not leaving. I will never. I promise. He lowered his head and pressed a soft, lingering kiss against her forehead. Then, holding her even tighter, Jungkook closed his eyes again. Wan slowly opened her eyes. Her vision was blurry, her head pounding so badly. Then she looked up and froze. Jungkook's face, too close, so close that she could feel his warm breath brushing against her cheek. Her heart skipped, then began to race uncontrollably. Her eyes widened in shock as reality settled in. His tattooed arms wrapped tightly around her waist, holding her against his chest. Her breath hissed. She shifted her gaze around the room. It wasn't her room. The dark walls, the expensive furniture, the faint scent of his calling lingering in the air. It was Jungkook's room, and she was lying beside him in his arms. Her heart thudded painfully in her chest. Then the memory of the last night came rushing back. Her eyes instantly welled up. Her job, how she had lost it. It had been the only thing keeping her, the only way she could survive, the only way she could pay back everything she owned. Now it was gone. She knew it would be almost impossible to find another job like that. The restaurant had paid her a decent salary, one that allowed her to survive for some dignity. She knew she wouldn't find a place that offered that again. That was why she was exhausted herself so completely, why she had pushed her body and mind to the limit just to work there, to keep the small shade of stability in her life. And now she had lost it, just like she lost everything else in her life. Her version blurred again as tears welled up instantly, spilling down her cheek silently. She shifted weakly, trying to pull away from him. That was when Jungkook's eyes opened. He frowned slightly, confusion flashing across his face before his gaze landed on her tear-filled eyes. One looked at him for a moment, trembling. Leave me, she whispered shakily. Her voice was weak, broken, but instead of letting go, Jungkook's grip tightened instantly, pulling her closer against his chest. Stay, he said in a deep, husky voice. Wan's eyes widened, her heart raced even faster. Before she could say anything, Jungkook spoke again, his voice quieter now, heavy with emotion. I'm sorry. She froze. I wanted to say this for a long time. His eyes sincere, unguarded. But I didn't have the courage. I'm sorry for everything, for what I did, for what I said to you. One stared at him silently, her lips trembling. Then she whispered, her voice breaking, "Why did you do this? You know how much that job meant to me." Still, her voice shuddered halfway. "I know," she continued weakly, tears falling freely now. "You were right, because I married you, because I didn't deny it." Jungkook shook his head immediately. "No," he said firmly, his voice calm but heavy with emotion. "There is nothing like that wine." He took a deep breath. "I know I was wrong. I thought you were like the others. I thought you married me for money. But when I saw you working so hard, pushing yourself every single day just to earn your own money," his voice softened. "That's when I realized how wrong I was, how unfair I had been to you." His voice lowered, with the guilt. "I never thought I could be so wrong. And that guilt, it hasn't left me, not for a single moment." Then he looked straight into her eyes. "I know saying sorry isn't enough, and I'm not asking you to forgive me. I'm not asking you for a second chance." His hand slowly moved, resting gently against her back. "But I promise you this," he said, his voice unwavering. "I'll earn everything. Every bit of trust, every bit of peace I took from you. I'll make things right," he whispered. "Everything. I'll fix it, I promise." Somewhere in her chest, one felt her heart skip. She didn't say anything. She just looked down, unable to speak. Jungkook's deep, calm voice broke the silence. "And I won't let you go there anymore. To that place where no one respected you, where you had to work tirelessly, exhaustively. I saw it when I saw how pale you had become, how exhausted you were. You didn't know what to say." Her throat tightened. Her words stuck somewhere in her chest. After a long moment she whispered, "But I want to pay you back the money you paid. I can't. I can't take it from you." Jungkook let out a soft sigh. "I know, and don't worry about that. If you want to work, then you can work in my company. We are hiring interns from part-time position. And salary, it was good, decent." One flown sidling. Jungkook caught her hesitation. His gaze softened, sincere, unwavering. "If you don't believe me, then check it for yourself," he said gently. "The interviews, the process, everything will go normally, just like it should. But I can't. I won't let you work in any place restaurant like this again." His tone was firm, cold, in a right way. Then he reached out, tugging a stray of hair lock behind her ear, his finger lingering. "For a moment, Wayne, can we give this marriage a chance?" he asked softly. "You don't have to give much effort. I'll take care of everything now, I promise." Wayne just looked at him. Her heart pounded, unable to stop. She could see the sincerity in his eyes, the real. After a long pause, after thinking through the whirlwind of everything that had happened, she slowly nodded her head. Jungkook's expression changed immediately. A smile, rare, spread across his face. One's breath caught. She had never seen him smile like this before. Without a word, he pulled her into a tight embrace. His arms held her like he would never let go. "Thank you," he mumbled, his voice deep and steady. "Thank you so much, and I promise I won't disappoint you now." One rested her head against his chest, listening to the steady rhythm of his heartbeat, feeling for the first time in so long a sense of warmth and protection.